So I made the summer squash and cilantro soup tonight. Gonna see about posting the recipe for that, even though I'm probably not gonna make it again just because I think I did a pretty good job of filming it. Some of y'all on the live had said that y'all were intrigued by that, so I wanted to let y'all know how I'm assessing it. Now, if you've been keeping up on my stuff, which Lord knows you don't have to watch everything I post, you might know that Sir rates anything that I cook on a 10-point scale, as do I. But if things don't meet my particular criteria prior to that, I'm not even going to ask him what it is unless he particularly adores it. And that also has to do with rating for whether I would take this to a dinner party or more high protocol event. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I don't know if y'all know this, but I was raised working class, like paycheck to paycheck working class. Dad married well, so I would have insurance, but there was not a lot of money for us. All of my fancy ways were learned on purpose, or taught by my mother, Dad married up multiple times. So a lot of the things that I'll immediately gravitate towards are things where you're getting a lot of food, it's very filling, it's very carb full, all that stuff. But for a high protocol thing, I'm going to be looking more at, is it artistic? Does it have fresh ingredients? Usually I'm looking for a small number of ingredients cooked very well so that it highlights the ingredients and the spices. And I want it to have visual impact, ideally. One of the great things about this anti-inflammatory thing that Sir is doing is that almost everything has very few ingredients that are relatively easy to prep. It doesn't take that much prep and cooking, and they are cooked so that the ingredients' flavor really comes out. That said, some of my mother's family doesn't care if something tastes good as long as it looks good, and no, I refuse. So I am judging based on ease of prep, visual impact, elegance, and taste. That said, this is a pretty good soup. You'll see in the prep video that I don't really have to worry too much about my cutting because it gets pureed. That said, it looks kind of like jism, and I'm not going to ever say that in Sir's hearing because he will not eat it if I say that, but I can't get it out of my head. It tastes good, very springy, very hoity-toity. I would definitely serve this to my mother's siblings. The mouth feels good. It definitely has a kind of high protocol vibe, but it just loses it on the visual for me. If someone requested this soup for a dinner, I wouldn't refuse on principle, but I would not suggest it myself. Still gonna eat it though. We paid for this food. Sometimes when I'm cooking for a high protocol thing, I will do something that's more elaborate, that's less of the kind of understated, elegant thing, and is more of the super fucking extra elegant thing. The biggest thing is that if I'm doing that, it has to be done very well. It can't be noisy. Everything has to work well together. Probably my best example of this is whenever I make, it's a kind of bruschetta, but it uses arugula pesto instead of regular pesto. And it's just, oh my god, it's so good. And I will bring that to like anything where I get the chance. And I've done entire menus that are full of high intensity, lots of prep, lots of ingredients, things, if I felt like they went together and if it was really supposed to be a wow moment. That said, if I'm doing that, that means I'm going to be in the kitchen all day and that I'm not likely to be able to enjoy the event as much as I would otherwise. So ideally, you're going to be looking at doing things that you can cook ahead of time, or at least prep parts of it ahead of time, so that on the day of, you don't have to do that much, or you'd ideally want to have a team working with you. Although for me, cooking with someone is more intimate than sex, so that's hard. I really like it when there's something like a potluck going on, because then I only have to bring 1 or 2 dishes. Or if I have the option of, say, buying in desserts so that I can focus on the main dish. That's what we did for my Sir's last birthday. If you are doing a potluck, it's important that everything is still visually impressive and that everything flows together visually and taste-wise so that you still have a cohesive whole even though multiple people are bringing things. You may have heard somewhere that one of the things about when you have something that has very few ingredients is that each of them has to be done to perfection because it'll show up if one of them is not okay. The thing is, that also applies if you have a lot of ingredients. If you have a simple dish and you mess it up, then it's clear that you messed it up. Meh. If you have a dish that has a lot going on with it and you mess it up, it is gonna get messy. It can be really fun to have 1 or 2 dishes that are very intense and complex, and then have other stuff that's simple, so that it's like, this is the star of the show and these are the rest of the cast. It can also be super fun to have an entire table full of very intricate, complex things, especially if you are eating with people who understand what they are looking at. I just like being appreciated. And as always, visual impact, taste, and mouthfeel are all incredibly important. And while timing is important regardless, if you have things that are more complex and you have more moving parts, it's a lot easier to mess that up, so keep an eye out. Don't worry though, I have a system, I'll teach you. You can do this. Protocol is for anyone who wants to.